Hey everyone, you are so much welcome to this session where we want to discuss hemoglobinopathies or what we call abnormal hemoglobin. So in the previous videos we have seen the structure of hemoglobin, we have seen normal hemoglobins, and we have even seen how the hemoglobin is synthesized at medical sciences by Naphtali Muhumuza. So in this session we want to look at abnormal hemoglobins or what we call haemoglobinopathies and how they are formed. And we always remind you to subscribe, share your comments, and like the video. And abnormal hemoglobins, we want to see how they are formed. I shall tell you that these abnormal hemoglobins are due to mutation, whereby mutation is sudden change in genetic makeup. Whenever there is deletion, it can either be by deletion or by substitution or by replacement. So whenever there is deletion of a gene or there is a substitution of the gene, we see what we call that one mutation. And whenever there is mutation in the globin chain, these mutations majorly occur in the globin chain, and the most affected globin chain is beta. So we see beta globin chain being majorly affected by the mutation, which results into replacement of a single amino acid. As we told you that beta has 146 amino acids, we are going to see a change. If this is the amino acid, this is the polypeptide chain of the globin, any replacement of an amino acid by the other leads to haemoglobinopathies. So that is mutation. And some, then to the lesser extent, they also occur on the alpha globin chain of the hemoglobin, but the only one which can occur on the alpha is HBM. HBM can occur on both alpha and beta, where others like HBM, HBS, HBE, HBD, HBC, and M, for them they occur due to mutation on the beta globin chain. So we are seeing that different haemoglobinopathies include HBS. We shall see HBC. We shall talk about HBM. We shall discuss about HBE, and finally we shall talk about HBD. So these are the most common haemoglobinopathies we have, 5 of them. And this is responsible for sickle cell. HBS is for sickle cell. This one is responsible for hemoglobin C disease. Then this one, M, stands for methemoglobin. This one, HBE, was named because it was first discovered in East Asia, in Middle East. Then this is, sometimes we call it hemoglobin Pujam. Then this is called C because it is called Cooley's hemoglobin. Cooley's hemoglobin. That's why we call it HBC. So after seeing these different haemoglobinopathies, we are going to discuss one by one to see how they come about. And we want to begin with HBS. We want to begin with hemoglobin S. And this hemoglobin S, which is responsible for sickle cell, is a hemoglobin responsible for sickle cell. And this sickle cell, or what we call HBS, is inherited. It is inherited. It is due to mutation. We said all of them is due to mutation, but it is an inherited autosomal recessive gene. Recessive. And we acquire it from both parents. It is acquired from both parents. So you cannot produce a sickle when the mother is having a sickle cell gene when the father does not have. Both of you must have, both the father and the mother must have the gene for sickle cell to be able to produce a sickler or to have sickle cell gene. And this sickle cell comes about by, it is due to replacement, you see, replacement of glutamic acid. And this glutamic acid or glutamate is due to replacement of glutamate to glutamic acid by valine. So valine replaces glutamic acid. This glutamic acid is polar, whereas the valine is non-polar. Polar means it is hydrophilic. This is hydrophilic. That is what it means. So when we replace glutamic acid by valine at position 6 of the beta globin chain, it occurs on the beta globin chain of chromosome at chromosome number 11. So whenever there is a mutation at position number 6, whereby at position 6 we find there glutamic acid, which is replaced by valine, which is non-polar, a non-polar amino acid replacing a polar amino acid at position 6 of the beta globin chain of chromosome number 11. So when that happens, glutamic acid being polar and having many negative charges, we are going to see that our hemoglobin, after that mutation happening, replacing with valine, which is non-polar, the hemoglobin becomes less negative. It becomes less negatively charged because we are replacing a polar with a non-polar, and even it becomes less soluble, meaning almost becomes insoluble. It loses its flexibility. It loses flexibility. And when it becomes insoluble and loses flexibility, this hemoglobin is able to cause polymerization, that in the oxygenated state, that is in absence of oxygen, that is or hypoxia, whenever there is lack of oxygen, it causes this sickle cell, these red cells which have a normal shape to resume to a sickled cell, become sickled. And we know that this sickle cell lacks area of central pili and it is banana shaped or bean shaped. So we can say it is bean shaped, it is banana shaped, it is kidney shaped cell, or it is sickle shaped. So this is the sickle cell that is being formed. Due to, and it occurs in carbon dioxide, in increased partial pressures of carbon dioxide, or what we call hypoxia, lack of oxygen. So whenever there is accumulation, so you can see that sicklers or sickle cell, in the presence of oxygen, it is normal. It has the normal shape. That is when there is oxygen. This is in the presence of oxygen. When oxygen is sufficient, the sickled cells or the cells of a sickle cell disease person, they are normal in shape. But they acquire a sickle shape when they are deprived of oxygen. That is in hypoxia state or in deoxygenated. So in deoxygenated state, but in oxygenated they are normal. Oxygenated state they are normal, but in deoxygenated state they acquire a sickle shape. And how does, after forming a sickle shape, this one enhances polymerization. So if I have the microvascular cell, if I have a vessel which is small, these cells are sickling in the presence of little oxygen or in hypoxia. these sickle cells tend to polymerize. They lead to what we call polymerization, whereby they aggregate together and they cause what we call vaso-occlusion. They cause what we call vaso-occlusion. They occlude the veins. And when there is the vaso-occlusion, means whenever the venous return or the blood is returning to the heart, it is blocked, and this one can lead to what we call sickle cell crisis. This vaso-occlusion leads to sickle cell crisis. So sickle cell crisis, which is characterized by pain, that whenever this polymerization of sickled cells in deoxygenated state occur, remember these cells have lost their flexibility because they are insoluble due to replacement of glutamic acid, which is polar by non-polar valine. They become less soluble and they lose their flexibility. So as they are maneuvering within the smaller microvascular vessels, they are not able to become or to move, but to be flexible to maneuver through. And because they are rigid, they tend to occlude into the endothelium, leading to what we call polymerization. They polymerize, leading to vaso-occlusion, which results into sickle cell crisis, which is always seen by the painful episodes of pain in sicklers. So that is what we can discuss about sickle cell, how it comes about. Do not forget that it is acquired from both parents. Both parents, what do we mean is that if this is a male and this is a female, we're going to say, and a male is normal, and these cells they are not sex linked. So they are not sex linked, but they are carried by the hemoglobin. So whenever a male is maybe has hemoglobin S, and the female also has hemoglobin S, on fertilization, we see them forming or producing a sickler. But when the male is maybe a carrier, has hemoglobin AS, and female also has hemoglobin AS, during fertilization, we see they have chances of producing normal HbA, and even they have chance of producing a sickler. So they have 50% chance. So it is 50%. 50% chance of producing either normal baby or a sickler baby when they are both carriers. And then also they have another chance, they have another 50 chance of producing, so it is 25% chance they can also produce a carrier. So this one becomes a carrier, this is a sickler, and this is normal. So these are the options whereby we can produce with the couples who have sickle cell trait. These ones are called carriers, or they have what we call sickle cell trait. They have sickle cell trait, and we regard them as carriers. So whenever you're getting married, that's why we normally advise to start by doing HB electrophoresis as part of premarital counseling to rule out this deadly disease. Because this one, you're sure it is not going to be healed, and many times few people reach 30 years, and it is always much in pain, every time in pain. And the good news is that as we are seeing that this sickle cell, someone can be either have a sickle cell disease that is hemoglobin SS, or they can be a carrier that is hemoglobin AS. This is whereby a child has acquired both genes responsible for sickle cell from the mother and the father. And this one is the one which is regarded as sickler. This one has sickle cell disease, and this one has sickle cell trait. A sickle cell trait. And these ones with sickle cell disease are the ones that suffer from all the things we have talked about. Whereas the people with the sickle cell trait, for them, they do not suffer. They are normal. They are normal. Phenotypically, they are normal. And because they are normal phenotypically, we are going to see that these people with the sickle cell trait, they are resistant to malaria, especially malaria caused by P. falciparum. So they are not prone to malaria caused by P. falciparum. Why? Because falciparum, it has its obligatory cycle or life cycle within the red cell. And we are seeing that these red cells are forming sickle. They are being sickled. And whenever they are sickled, we see them being destroyed faster. We see the normal RBC lifespan is 120 days. This one has 120 days. But for the sickled, it has a lifespan. This one, which is sickled, has a lifespan of 10 to 17 days. So because there is increased breakdown of these sickle cells between 10 to 17 days, whereby the normal takes 120, we are going to see in the sickle cell trait, those which have the sickle cell gene are always broken down before this falciparum completes its life cycle. So you find it is being broken down faster before falciparum finishes its life cycle, and it cannot achieve its parastemia. So you find someone who has the malaria parasites, but they do not suffer from the disease. Why? Because whenever the parasites want to multiply, the cells are destroyed. Whenever they want to multiply, they are destroyed before they attack other new red cells. So these guys who are sickle cell trait, for them, they are able to transmit malaria. The mosquito, female anopheles mosquito, can transmit malaria from them to other normal and the people with the sickle cell, but for them, they remain normal. They cannot have the disease. That is what we can discuss about sickle cell traits. And this sickle cell, which we are still talking about in this introduction, is diagnosed. We can always diagnose sickle cell disease. If someone has sickle cell disease, they are always diagnosed. Or how do you know that someone has sickle cell? We have talked about episodes of pain due to sickle cell crisis, which occurs in a deoxygenated state, where the sickle cells are able to sickle. They form the sickle shape only in a deoxygenated state. We have seen they are inherited from both parents. So whenever you are a couple and you are normal and the lady maybe is a sickler, and you find you are producing a sickle cell child, be sure that that child is not yours, because all of them must contribute genes. So never be deceived, because all parents contribute. Or if you are there, you are a father, you are blaming the mother to be the misfortune of the sickle cell disease. Please stop, because you are the cause, you are the root cause. All of you contribute. That's why we say both parents contribute to this gene. And we are diagnosing them. So these people, because there is increased hemolysis of red cells, they normally have jaundice due to hyperbilirubinemia. And the type of hyperbilirubinemia is unconjugated. We normally see these people with splenomegaly. Splenomegaly, why? Because there is increased breakdown or destruction of these sickled cells, and because the spleen is overworking or it is overwhelmed, we see it being undergoing hypertrophy. That's what we call splenomegaly, and even sometimes hepatomegaly, because even the hepatocyte is, the liver hepatocytes are involved. These people, they end up with also ascites due to the hepatomegaly. Sometimes there is sorrow in the abdomen. Then they are always characterized with episodes of sickle cell crisis, that is, episodes of pain. Every time the cells become sickled. And sometimes in male, we see a condition known as priapism. Priapism, whereby if this is the penis, and this penis, it has a vein which is supplying blood, and these veins are blocked by a sickle cell, so there is no venous return. And you find this male can remain erect, they can remain erect for long, and it is always solved medically. And this is the painful erection. Painful erection due to blockage of the veins supplying the penis. And it is always managed in the hospital. That is what we call priapism. And sometimes these guys, we normally encourage them not to put on tight shoes because they tend to suffer what we call foot ulcers. Why? Because little blood supply is reaching the extremities, so they can suffer from also foot ulcers. And there are many tests that we do to diagnose this deadly disease, which can be prevented by always doing premarital counseling. And one of the tests we are utilizing in the laboratory is peripheral blood film comment. We are always screening them using 2% sodium metabisulfite, And if we don't have this sodium metabisulfite, you can even use E. coli suspension. And this is a reducing agent. We can also use sodium dithionate. These are screening tests. Then whenever we screen and we find these guys are positive, we can do a confirmatory whereby we do HB electrophoresis. So these are the diagnostic methods we can always do on sickle cell. So this is what we can discuss in this session about sickle cell. We shall have another video whereby we shall talk in details of the diagnosis of sickle cell. And as we conclude on hemoglobinopathies, we have covered sickle cell. Now we can look at HB, and look at other hemoglobinopathies, which shall not take us long, because where we had to discuss much on this is on sickle cell. So the second one we can talk about, the hemoglobinopathy, is HbC, which we called Cooley's hemoglobin. Cooley's hemoglobin, these are Indian coolies, which was first discovered in India, and we called it hemoglobin C. And this hemoglobin C is due to replacement. We are replacing glutamic acid or glutamate, you can call it glutamate or glutamic acid, by lysine amino acid at position, here it is at position 26, it is at position 6 of the beta globin chain. It also occurs on the beta globin chain. So this one is glutamic acid, which is polar, is being replaced by lysine at position number 6 of the beta globin chain. And when it is replaced, this one results into para crystallization. It causes crystallization of hemoglobin. The hemoglobin forms many crystals. Crystallization of hemoglobin results, and these crystals are seen in the peripheral film as hexagonal crystals in the hemoglobin. So you find the hemoglobin, this is a hemoglobin with HbC crystals. And this one is always characterized with mild hemolytic anemias. There is always mild hemolytic anemias. So what we need to understand about Cooley's hemoglobin is that it is replacement of glutamic acid by valine at position number 6 of the beta globin chain, which results into crystallization of the hemoglobin, forming these hexagonal crystals within the HB, and it can result into mild hemolytic anemia. Then number 3, we can talk about HBM is another hemoglobinopathy, and this HBM M stands for methemoglobin. And this methemoglobin is also genetically acquired due to mutation of the genes. It is not the one which is, this is genetic, but there is another one which is acquired due to when you take your drugs, those oxidant drugs. And this methemoglobin is also as a result of replacement. Here we are replacement of histidine amino acid is being replaced by tyrosine. And this one occurs at position 87 of the beta or alpha globin chain. So this is the only one that can occur on both globin chains, either beta or alpha. But we are saying we are replacing histidine by tyrosine at position 87 of the beta or alpha globin chain. And whenever there is this replacement, we normally see that the heme has iron in ferrous state. And it is when iron is in ferrous state in the heme is the one which is able to bind with oxygen. But whenever there is methemoglobin gene due to replacement of histidine by tyrosine, the iron in ferrous state is always oxidized to ferric state. It is always oxidized to iron 3, which is ferric state, and in ferric state, hemoglobin with iron in ferric state does not combine with oxygen. And because this methemoglobin is unable to bind with oxygen, these people with hemoglobin or hemoglobin M disease, they normally suffer from cyanosis, whereby cyanosis, it is blue coloration due to lack of oxygen supply to many body tissues. Because we are seeing hemoglobin, after converting it from iron 2 to iron 3, which is stable, it does not combine with oxygen, so hemoglobin cannot deliver oxygen to the respiring cells, resulting into what we are calling cyanosis. Cyanosis is always due to hypoxia, little oxygen supply, or lack of oxygen supply because of iron 2 being oxidized to iron 3, which hemoglobin can no longer bind with oxygen to form oxyhemoglobin to deliver oxygen to the cells. So this is hemoglobinopathy M, which we are calling methemoglobin. Though I have told you also it can be acquired when you are taking oxidant drugs that oxidizes the iron 2 to iron 3. So it can also be acquired. So it is both genetical and acquired. That is hemoglobin M disease. Then the second last we can talk about hemoglobinopathies is hemoglobin E. And this hemoglobin E, for it is due to replacement. We are replacing glutamate or glutamic acid by lysine at position 26. So the difference between hemoglobin E and hemoglobin C is the position. For the C, it is at position 6, but the same amino acid being replaced by each other. But this one, for it, the replacement is at position number 26. That is the difference between HBC and HBE. But the amino acid remain the same. That is glutamate by lysine at position number 26, and it is majorly found in the Middle East. That's why we call it HBE. Characterized with mild hemolytic anemias. That is what we can talk about HBE. And lastly is number 5. Lastly is number 5 as we conclude, which we know as HBD. Sometimes we call it triple jump. And this hemoglobin D is due to replacement. We are replacing glutamate or glutamic acid by glycine. Here we are replacing it by glycine, and this replacement is occurring at position 121 of the beta globin chain. Even this replacement was occurring on the beta. We see mutation occurs major on the beta globin chain of the hemoglobin. So for HBD, we are replacing glutamate with glycine at position 121 of the beta globin chain. So these are different hemoglobinopathies that we can always see happening due to mutation. And whenever mutation occurs in a population, we see them being acquired from parents. So the children acquire from both parents. Or sometimes we have seen also HBM, which can also be acquired by taking oxidant drugs. So in this session, as we conclude, do not forget about 5 hemoglobinopathies. That is HBS, HBC, which is Equals disease, and we have HBD, HBE, and HBM. These are the major hemoglobinopathies we are seeing due to mutation, and even we have expounded on the sickle cell, how it comes about, and how we can know that someone has sickle cell. So always be there to subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Remember to share your comments for the betterment of our studies. Thank you so much. In the next video, we shall see how we can diagnose sickle cell. Thank you so much.